It's definitely a puzzlement. That's what life is. And the King of Siam really understood that. Yes, it's being a puzzlement. And today we're going to talk about the paradox mindset. Yes, indeed, the ability to hold and consider two seemingly opposed ideas in the same time, and in so doing, to break through to more creative ways of solving problems. Ernest Holmes tells us the riddle of the universe is a paradox. The question is in its own answer, because the mind that asks the question is also the mind that answers the question. And I've been in this religious science movement 40, 50, 53 years. Can you believe it? Over half a century. And when I was in Los Angeles attending all the religious science services and workshops and classes, this is what would happen. Somebody would come to the class or the workshop and say, "Oh my God, I've got a terrible headache," or "I'm so worried." And people would stand up and say, "Cancel, cancel." They would say, "Cancel," whenever anybody spoke anything that wasn't perfect, perfect, perfect. They would judge them and say, "Cancel." So today, we are going to cancel canceling. That's what we are here to do. We're going to cancel canceling. So while I was working on preparing the sermon, the phone rang a couple of times. The first person's father had just died. The second was about somebody with a terrible skin disease eating up their skin. And so, do you think I said cancel while they were talking? I certainly did not. What I did was I listened to them with great love and compassion, and I honored what they were saying. I was absolutely, totally with them. And then eventually, I did a treatment. First of all, I was honoring their human side, and then I did a treatment which was honoring their spiritual essence. Yes, indeed. So Carl Rogers said the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. What an idea. Accept myself just as I am, and then I can change. So remember when you heard this phrase, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. I remember that. So today, just today, everybody, we are integrating our humanity and our spiritual essence in this often paradoxical experience we called life, says Ernest Holmes. Remember Groucho Marx? Groucho Marx said, "I don't care to belong to any club that will have me as a member." Paradox for sure. Some examples of paradox thinking, which it used to drive me kind of nuts when I was growing up, is, for example, the liar paradox. And so the liar paradox arises from the statement, "This statement is false." Now, if the statement is true, then it must be false because it claims to be false. But if it's false, then it must be true because it states that it's false. And what that does for me, it's a stop and think moment. So it makes me think about it. The paradox mindset encourages us to embrace contradictory ideas, such as life is strong and fragile. It's a paradox. It's both things. Like quantum physics, Einstein tells us it's a particle and a wave at the same time. I coined a phrase these days. You know how mindful we are all the time? Well, I coined the phrase remindful, remindful to be mindful. Like this Islamic prayer says, before going to sleep every night, forgive everyone and sleep with a clean heart. I am remindful of being mindful. So I repeat, today we are integrating our humanity and our spiritual essence in this often paradoxical experience we call life. And that's what Ernest Holmes tells us to do. You know, we're spiritual beings having a human experience where we're going to deal with that today. And perhaps you know that English is a very funny, crazy language full of paradoxes. Yes, indeed. So if we explore paradoxes, we find out in English that quicksand can work very slowly, that boxing rings are square, and a guinea pig is neither from Guinea nor is it a pig. There's no egg in eggplant, no ham in hamburger, neither apple nor pine in pineapple. And English muffins weren't invented in England, or French fries in France. Sweetmeats are candies, while sweetbreads, which aren't sweet, are meat. Yes, we take English for granted. And why is it that writers write, but fingers don't fing, and grocers don't gross, and hammers don't ham? And if the plural of tooth is teeth, why isn't the plural of booth beef? One goose, two geese. So for one moose, two meese? I don't think so. If teachers taught, why didn't preachers prot? Why didn't I prot? If a vegetarian eats vegetables, what does a humanitarian eat? How can the weather be hot as hell today and tomorrow be cold as hell? So today, I'm reminding us that we're integrating our humanity with great grace and love and spiritual essence in this often paradoxical experience we call life. I love that by Ernest Holmes. So there are principles in paradoxical mindset. One of the first one is one that I adore. It's called unity in diversity. And as you know, this is one of my favorite things to do. We have celebrate religious diversity every few months here. And what we do is we take a topic, one topic like the Golden Rule or love, and we treat it from all the different religious or philosophical points of view. And what we find out is there is unity in diversity. Another principle is saying no to say yes. Sometimes saying no to certain opportunities or commitments is necessary to say yes to what really matters. This paradox mindset emphasizes the importance of setting priorities and boundaries and making intentional choices. And another principle in paradox mindset is strength in vulnerability. Embracing vulnerability can be seen as a sign of strength. This paradox mindset recognizes that being open and about one's weaknesses and seeking help when needed can actually lead to personal growth and resilience. Back in 1970, something amazing happened. Southwest Airlines was founded, and it had a revolutionary idea. Herb Kelleher, the guy who founded it, had his own principles, and so it was designed, instead of giving seating to people with certain fares that they paid, he decided that he wanted to give seating on a first come, first serve basis. And I actually took advantage of us. So those who were in line first got to choose their seat first. He developed this egalitarian operating philosophy and chose to continue to put his values and passion first, even though the other way would have made him possibly more money. He was heard to say conventional wisdom put a lot of airlines out of business. And it was so wonderful to participate in his beliefs, even though it seemed contrary to what would be the most profitable. You know, there are also paradoxes in literature. For example, how many of you love Sherlock Holmes? I love Sherlock Holmes. I've read all those stories of Sherlock Holmes. When I'm curious about something, I say I'm Sherlocka Holmes. So Sherlock Holmes was quite a paradox by Arthur Conan Doyle. He was arrogant, he was selfish, he was unpleasant, and he was rude, but he also showed kindness and empathy and a desire to help people. So this is what is known as a stop and think moment. So when you are reading about Sherlock Holmes, you are stopping and thinking about this, that he is many, many things. Another book is 1984 by George Orwell. I loved that book, but all of those paradoxes were very confusing. He created a dystopian world. Dystopian means the opposite from utopian. So in this dystopian world, they had slogans, and their slogans were like, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. And throughout this novel, we had stop and think moments where he's trying to shed light on the danger of society becoming numb to this paradox and the contradictions it creates. And thus, the paradoxical government is at the heart of the story itself. And he wrote another book, which I read, called Animal Farm. And in that, there's the following sentence: all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Yes, indeed. He attempts to show the paradoxical nature of socialistic governments, and it shows a gap between the principles of socialistic governments and how they show up in actual life. So today we're talking about the paradox of the new age. We are integrating our human self and our spiritual essence in this often paradoxical experience we call life. So I want to talk to you about something I live by every day. And you know, you've heard me mention whenever anything happens, oh, it's a God thing. I even wrote a song about it's a God thing. So one activity in a God thing leads to another. So last Monday, Don and I went out to spread these flyers from the Solar event when we decided to go to a bookstore, Barnes and Noble. And the manager said, no, their policy is they couldn't post flyers, but they would put it in their break room. And she said, but Amy's across the parking lot has a board where they post flyers. So we went out of the bookstore. We looked way across the parking lot, and Don said, "Do you want to drive or do you want to walk?" And I said, "I want to drive." So we started crossing the street, and a man was crossing with us at the same time. And I said to the man, "Isn't it great? We're all crossing in the same place. We're all together." And the man turned out to be, he would tell me his name, and he said, "I'm a wounded healer." And I go, "What's a wounded healer?" And we began talking. He took our flyer, and it was so great. That was a blessing, a God thing that happened from just crossing the street. And all day long, we went into businesses, some I'd never heard of. That was a God thing. One thing led to another. Yes, indeed. So I went home and I looked up what's a wounded healer. And what I found out was that Carl Jung called this archetype the wounded healer. It's a term that says they are often intuitive and insightful, and by sharing their stories, they can help inspire others. Like, who are they? Like Mother Teresa's a wounded healer. She acknowledged the struggles of the darkness of her people that she worked with. St. Thomas More struggled with fear and depression. And Viktor Frankl is a survivor of the Nazi concentration camp when he wrote in his wonderful book, Man's Search for Meaning. He invented logotherapy, which helps people. And so this week I had some magnificent demonstrations in my life in living from it's a God thing consciousness. I needed new hearing aids because I needed something that worked better, and I did research. I found out that Medicare doesn't pay for them, and hearing aids go all the way up to $4,000. So while I was searching, Spirit inspired me. Look in your own insurance and see if they do anything for hearing aids. So I called Humana, and guess what? They sponsor with a certain hearing aid company free hearing aids. And so I'm registered for an exam this week. And my daughter said, "See if your insurance company deals with life alerts, you know, those things you wear in case you fall or something." Guess what? They have free life alerts. So following It's a God Thing and listening to Spirit, all kinds of marvelous, marvelous, marvelous things can happen. So what I want to tell you is today we're honoring with grace our human side, and we're also owning our spiritual side. So I want to share with something I've just found out about an African tribe. This is so amazing. When a woman is pregnant in this African tribe, they go out into the wilderness with some of her friends, and they pray and they meditate until they hear the special song of the unborn child. They hear it, and then they sing it aloud to the unborn child. For everyone has a special vibration, a special song. And then they go back to their tribe and they teach them the song. So when the baby's born, you know what? They sing the baby's special, special song. And when the baby enters education, they sing the song to that child. And when that child is initiated into adulthood, you know what? They sing that person's song to them. When they get married, they also always gather and sing that special song to remind them who they really are. But there's one time they sing the song, not for all those positive things, but what happens if that child becomes a person and he does something like breaks the law or something like that, then, or commits a crime, he isn't punished, but he's put in the center of the circle. And you know what? They sing his song to him to remind him who he really is. The tribe recognizes that the correction for antisocial behavior is not punishment. It is love and the remembrance of the identity of who you are. So if you have a friend is someone who knows your song and sings it to you when you've forgotten of it, when you've forgotten your own song. Those who love you are not fooled by any mistakes you might make or dark images you hold about yourself. They remember your beauty when you feel ugly and your wholeness when you are broken, your innocence when you feel guilty, and your purpose when you're confused. So you may not have grown up in an African tribe that sings your song to you, but at crucial times or transitions, life is always reminding you when you are in tune with who you really are and when you are not. So when you feel good, when you're doing matches your song, and when you feel awful, it doesn't matter, because in the end, we'll all recognize our true song and sing it well. You may feel a little wobbly or warbly at the moment you're singing your song, but so have all the great singers. Just keep singing and you'll find your way home. So in conclusion today, I want to share with you something so beautiful that Irma Bombeck wrote when she found out she was dying from cancer. And it's called If I Had My Life to Live Over. And this is what she wrote. Won't you join me to listen to this? I would have gone to bed when I was sick instead of pretending the earth would go on to a holding pattern if I weren't there for the day. I would have burned the pink candle sculpted with a rose before it melted in storage. I would have talked less and listened more if I had my life to live over. I would have eaten the popcorn in the good living room and worried much less about the dirt when someone wanted to light a fire in the fireplace. I would have taken the time to listen to my grandfather ramble about his youth. I would have shared more of the responsibility carried by my husband. I would never have insisted the car windows be rolled up on a summer day because my hair had just been teased and sprayed. I would have sat on the lawn with my grass stains. I would have cried and laughed less about watching TV and more while watching real life. And instead of wishing away the 9 months of pregnancy, I'd have cherished every moment and realized that the wonderment growing inside me was the only chance in life to assist God in a miracle. When my kids kissed me impetuously, I would never have said, later, now go get washed up for dinner. There would have been more I love yous and more I'm sorries. But mostly, given another shot at life, I would seize every moment, look at it, and really see it, live it, and never give it back. I would stop sweating the small stuff. Don't worry about who doesn't like you, or who has more, or who's doing what instead. Let's cherish the relationships we have with those who do love us. And now, won't you join me in treatment for the day? All of God is present right here and right now. How sweet it is to know that. and to know my life is God's life, embodying all the attributes of God in microcosm. And I am so grateful to be able to speak my word as God breathes through me and speaks this word through me for all the people that are here today, all the people in the Austin Center for Spiritual Living, all the people watching it later, all the people of the world, knowing that God is everywhere equally present, omnipresent, equally brilliant, omniscient, and powerful, omnipotent. What I know is that all of our lives, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, are God's life, expressing with our unique vibration, our unique song, so to speak. And everything is perfect. Our relationships are harmonious. And what I know about everybody is that they are inheritors of unique, limitless divine abundance, practicing the principles of prosperity with more than enough money to do what they want, however long they want to do it, and when they want to do it. How sweet it is that every system in the physical body is God's perfection, wholeness, and completeness, and that every person honors who they are spiritually and mentally. Relationships are harmonious. Work expressions use the gifts and talents of everyone, and everyone gets along magnificently in the work situations. We embody who we are physically, mentally, spiritually, as we embrace contradictions and paradoxes and break through to wonderful, wonderful healings and wonderful answers to questions and problems. We are an expression uniquely of God. And I'm so grateful to reveal this truth about all of us. As I release my word into that wonderful law of the universe, knowing indeed that even as I am now speaking, my word is made flesh. So together we say, and so it is. Amen and amen.